And then the terminology, Incoterms, I'm going to talk a little bit about on the next slide, these HS codes I introduced. You'll often hear of MOQ, the factory's minimum order quantity. We have a good video on that on our YouTube channel. Who's the importer of record? That's the person responsible for imports. So you want to make sure that you're designating that. The consignee, you may ship the goods. You may be the company purchasing the goods, but you may ship them to another warehouse or to your customer, and they may be the consignee. So these are all terms you want to be comfortable with. What's a courier shipment? That's something like DHL or FedEx. A freight forwarder, we have on our call today, freight forwarder, a speaker for you. I like to call them a travel agent for your shipment, right? They arrange for all the details of your shipment. Customs broker, something else you're going to learn more about today, manages those import and export transactions for you. Drayage is a term that you might hear, especially if it shows up as a fee on your the invoice from the freight forwarder. This means transportation and or warehousing that's happening within the ports. And then the cube, you need to be able to calculate the volume and the size of your packages, because that's really important for the shipping companies to understand how much they can put into a container, how much they can put into an airplane, right? So these Incoterms, we really don't have the time to go into real detail, but they're 3-letter codes, and they're again set from an international perspective. But it's always a good idea when you choose one that applies to your shipment, which is who's paying for the freight, at what point who's paying for the insurance, that sort of thing. That's what they tell us. It's important that you clarify some additional information in your purchase order or commercial invoice, so that it's clear where, if it's free on board, where is it? Where does that transfer happen? At the factory? Where's the factory? At the port? So those are all things you want to be clear about, because while in theory there's an international understanding for what these terms mean, I've still seen variances in practice by how people use them at different factories and businesses around the world. So you want to be clear. What is your HS or HTS code? They do have a slightly different meaning, but you'll see them used often interchangeably. This is that number I told you about, so that when I'm shipping over, coffee in this example, everybody's really clear on what type of coffee it is that I'm shipping. So you have the first 2 digits, or it's like the Dewey Decimal System in the library, right? The first 2 digits are coffee, tea, and mate, so like a big category. And then when we add 0901, we're specifically talking about coffee that is, coffee husks and skins. It's not decaffeinated coffee. Then we go a little bit more detail and we say specifically coffee roasted, not decaffeinated. So we've eliminated husks and skins and some substitutes. So we're getting narrower as we go down, right? And so in the end, you end up with these 10 digits. The last 4 can vary by country. And that's as much as I can say about this at this point, but the importing classes we have go into more detail. If you want to understand what applies to the product that you're importing, the US ITC, International Trade Commission, has a fabulous search engine on their website where you can put in that number and you can identify what are the duties for this product. You'll see where I circled in red on the right. The column on your left has the general duty. So it might be 0.7%. If there's a number after the slash, that means there's an additional control, quotas or tariffs. The second column where it says special, that's if we have a free trade agreement with that country. That means that the duty rate on the left is typically going to be free, so there's no duty. On the third column, which is under number 2, I call that the countries we hate, right? Those are the countries that we penalize. And right now that includes like North Korea and those type of countries. It's a small list, but those are countries that if you import goods from those countries, it's going to be a much higher duty rate than what would be normal.